Now that the pattern pieces are cut, in this video I'll trace them onto the fur and the cotton. Take care when laying out the fur. It should be fur side down, backing side up, laying flat. I find that keeping one edge rolled up helps keep even tension on the rest of the fur. Now we're ready to trace out the pieces of the pattern. Line up the hood pattern piece to the top edge of the fur as best you can. Confirm the angle is correct by also lining up the hood pattern piece with the salvage edge. This looks pretty clean, so I can get pretty close to that. Of course, always double check that your fur direction is going in the right way. Definitely going down. Line your ruler up with the edge of the pattern. Take your Sharpie. Continue down past the pattern. This is only a sample length. You'll want to extend it out about 30 inches. Do the same for the other side. Again, follow that line down. You can follow the top of the pattern. Center of the neck. Next sides. Get your line tucked in there. Same on the other side. I'll show you that I usually do about 3 ruler lengths of width for hugs. Do that on the other side too. So when we pull this away, get a better view of the whole pattern. Let's draw in some of the lines from the pattern, specifically the fold and the stitch lines. So this again will be your fold line. If it's handy to you, circle these guys again. You do not want to cut past there. Remembering that our seam allowance is 1 inch from the cut line. Now first, pretty forgiving, so if these aren't exactly the smoothest lines, that's okay. You can see our stitch lines, seam allowance, cut lines. Perfect. Extend the lines up. This can be messy as long as it goes up to that first cut line. To make sure our hug length is correct, we'll just give it a little measure. Again, this ruler is really handy. It's 2 inches wide, so there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. If it helps you, write it down. You need to readjust your fur at this point. This ruler is perfect for cat head hugs. I trace 3 widths for each hug. The width of the ruler is 2 inches, making our hugs 6 inches wide. 25, we want it to be even. I do have a little bit more room on this side, but with cat hats I've always tried to keep it as symmetrical as possible, so we know that that's 25. Now we remember that our fur direction is going towards me, so we'll want to match that up. We can put the cut line right against the other cut line because we only have seam allowance on the outer edge curved ear. And I like tucking them right underneath each other. This gives us room to use this for more hugs. What you can do is we can measure out an inch seam allowance, or you've got 2 ears. The biggest thing to know is fur direction and that you want opposing shapes. So I would suggest cutting this out. So then you've got your separate seam allowance and ear. So you can get both of those lines in there again. So you want to line that up. Looks good. Take that out. And you got your seam allowance there and your stitch line. And these are the same. They're mirror images, so I can just flip that over. Now nothing goes to waste. This chunk here is extra, but definitely worth saving for a future cat hat. So I'm going to map it out as hug pieces and save it for next time. So then you can easily cut this out, leave this for ears, hugs, something later, and then you've got this useful, ready to go. Let's tidy up a bit before moving on. We now have our main fur trace marked and ready to cut. Next, we'll map out and trace our contrasting fur. We wanted a length of 30 inches. We can see that we've got 25, so that leaves us with a little bit of a deficit, but that's okay, because we can use that same fur that we're going to use for the inside of the ear. So we're making sure the fur direction, the fur grain is where we want it. We've got the selvage edge ready to go. Start by lining up the flat edge of your first ear along the selvage edge. Give yourself some room. You don't need to line it up too close to the edge. Set up the second ear, switching the fur direction. Don't forget to draw in the seam allowances on both of your ears. Oh, you can see just a little bit off from there, so I'm just going to straighten out for the next cut. And finally, we'll map out the bottom of our hugs. We need our length to add up to 30 inches, so I'm going to map out, let's map out 6 inches. I always mark an X where I'm going to cut. When you get fabric that's been marked up and left and revisited, it can be hard to tell where you're cutting. I always like marking it with an X. This also helps, marking it with a 6, so you know where your math adds up.